Hello there, ball watchers, and welcome back to another installation of ball watching. You have just Jake here today. Justin and I are in the throes of an awful week from a work perspective, so we were not able to find time to do this together today. But he is in our thoughts and spirit today as we get into a preview of City's upcoming match against Vancouver this Saturday evening at City Park. But before I get into all of that preview, and we're going to keep this relatively short today, a little more of a bite-sized episode for you all. Copa America is obviously well underway at this point now in the semifinals. Just wanted to make note that Canada made it to the semifinals. Very funny when you think about where the US is at and all the expectations that were thrust on this team versus Canada, who just hired their coach heading into this tournament, Jesse Marsh. And I would say definitely not the level of player pool or talent, but they get to the semis. They did lose last night 2-0 to Argentina. I think that's the same team that we played in the last installation of Copa America when we had it here on home turf in 2016. But that result was very lopsided in Argentina's favor. Messi did score against Canada, but overall, kudos to that program for really getting a kickstart and getting that far in a major tournament. I think they have a lot of momentum heading into the World Cup with expectations and, just meeting performance standards. So big props to Canada for that, even though they did lose. Tonight, for me, the time of recording is the morning on Wednesday, and Uruguay is set to square off against Colombia. Should be a very interesting match, this one. I would encourage you all to take a look. It'll be on Fox tonight, but two high impact, explosive attacking teams should make for some good TV, for some good sporting entertainment. So I highly recommend checking that one out. Obviously, Argentina's booked their spot in the final. If I had to put my money somewhere, I'm thinking Colombia is going to be up there with them in the final. But let's focus in a little bit more on some City news. There has been a boatload of it. Nothing huge, but I do think important to kind of synthesize and summarize for you all. And I will do on the back of some great reporting from Jen Seiss, who's a friend of the show, wife of George Gansner. Jen is an incredible personality in and around the soccer scene in St. Louis. We've met a couple of times, but she works as a broadcaster at Y98 and does the STL City Soccer Report on KMOX Sports. Also does Soccer Mom Sunday on the Soccer Dad Pod, which all know that we've done that before. But Jen is great, and she did such an awesome job summarizing a lot of the recent news in terms of health and injuries in around the club. So I did just want to kind of summarize what she had to say yesterday in a tweet. But you can follow, by the way, Jen at Coach Jen MTD on X, and you can get all these updates yourself as well. But player health, obviously very important. We saw Berkey go down in the last match, not dramatically, but come out with some back issues. He was seen in the training center, but did not go through his goalkeeping workout yesterday. I think per Jen, they're being a little bit cautious with this back spasm that he's going through, hoping it sounds like he can play on Saturday and suit up. Similar with Leuven, who was running outside of training yesterday. They're also being very cautious on him, dealing with an adductor, otherwise called a groin issue with Leuven. I think cautiously optimistic there as well for Saturday. Nilsson's back in training, not, full match fitness ready yet. But should and could be available for selection if needed. Probably more of a sub type impact on Saturday. And let's talk about some of the newer arrivals. Toyert obviously is in St. Louis. We saw him unveiled at the last match at home. Apparently, he's making seismic waves already in training with the quality that he brings. They're hoping to have him ready, fit, and available for the first match he would be eligible for, which is the 20th, the match against Sporting, which is now just 10 days away. Holy cow. Jake Girdwood Reich is now in St. Louis, the Aussie center back / number 6 or central defensive midfielder that we just signed. He was running around today in St. Louis. That's as of yesterday. They said they might try, it sounds like, for this Sporting game, but probably looking more at Leagues Cup for a debut. I'm kind of looking at Leagues Cup for a debut for all of these guys, to be totally honest. Maybe not Toyert if they're kind of advertising the Sporting KC match for him and he's already been here, but that's going to be something they'll really, I feel like, try to use to drum up more interest and hype around Leagues Cup, given some of the ticket issues and some of the stance that a lot of fans and media and creators have put out, taking a stance against Leagues Cup and really wanting to have MLS champion and support the US Open Cup more in the future. Marcel Hartel, they're hoping he arrives in St. Louis this week, our new designated player, our final designated player as of right now. The central attacking midfielder, number 10. Sounds like he's pretty optimistic about his own shape, telling Hackworth that he's always in good shape. But I think sounds like per gen, they're going to focus on Leagues Cup is timing for him. The only other injuries that are big for you all to know about right now, obviously, are Alm and Klaus, who are not ready yet, but progressing. I'd say probably at least for Alm, I'm not expecting to see him anytime probably before the very end of July, if not August. And Klaus probably similar given the timeline. I think we were given 6 weeks for his MCL sprain as well. So we're still nursing a very hobbled team at this point. And I just wanted to pull that all together from Jen's great reporting to make sure that you all know where we're at on some of these things, because frankly, it's not looking great. And for a coach, it's hard to manage these types of situations when you don't have the greatest depth to start. So I do want to give Carnell even credit for managing as much as he has in the past, because it cannot be easy to look at this team and have to deal with those types of concerns, especially the ones that I feel like at this point are just nagging us. So that's the gist I wanted to give you all there. Justin and I are working on sort of the magic number calculation for you all to make that as foolproof as we possibly can. But just to spoil the story for you all, it's not looking great right now for us. We still have a ton of work to get through. So maybe I can get to that at the end of the show and talk about kind of our outlook. But let's talk about Vancouver. Obviously we know Vancouver super well at this point. We've already played them, twice last season, and then now this season we lost 4-3 away, and that was recent. So that was 3 games ago now for us. We went up 2-0 early in that game. First 12 minutes on that Blum deflected shot that found its way to the back of the net, and Leuven on a PK. But then we gave up 4 straight goals, 3 of whom to Brian White, their star striker, who had a deflected goal, a scorpion goal, and a good header to round out his hat trick. Thor did get his consolation goal at the end of the game to make the scoreline look a little bit better than it was, but still not a good result for us away. Still looking for our first win. Vancouver is having an okay season so far. They're 9-7-5, putting them 6th in the West with 32 points. Home record of 4-3-2, away record of 5-4-3. You don't like to see that on the back of a upcoming home game for us here. They're about mid-table in the MLS when you look at goals for at 34. 29 goals against, which is the 9th least in the MLS. So in the upper kind of echelons there. Some of their bigger away results we wanted to draw attention to was a 3-0 loss at LAFC, a 2-0 loss at Timbers. So those are 1st and 5th in the West, respectively. They did beat the Sounders away, who are now 7th in the West, and they drew Montreal on Saturday, who are 11th in the East. So coming off the back of not so great game, hopefully we can catch them off of that one. So the key players, they haven't changed much. I just want to draw even more attention now to players like Ryan Gauld, who we saw be so impactful for them in our match. He is such a good creator. He has 9 goals, 7 assists so far this season. He's a top 25 XG creator in the MLS, number 7 in expected assist, number 6 in key passes leading to a shot, and number 7 in crosses and corner kicks. So all of that set piece delivery, all of that putting things on a platter for his teammates to then feed off of and score goals from, that's coming from Ryan Gauld. And so if you're a defender on St. Louis City, you've got to keep an eye on him at all times, because he's really the string puller when you look at Vancouver Whitecaps. So got to keep an eye on Ryan Gauld. The other guy, and we learned the hard way, is Brian White. He's a 28-year-old striker. Both these guys, by the way, 28. So well in the athletic prime of their careers, coming off the back of a lot of experience as well. He had 15 goals last season. That was the 5th best in MLS. He's already got 10 this season, 2 assists, number 5 in non-penalty XG created in the MLS, and number 6 in aerial duels won. So he's a scrappy guy. If he finds any sort of sniff of a chance, especially against us, like you saw, he's gonna grasp that, and he's gonna grab it by the horns and make sure that he puts one in the back of the net. So Those 2 guys specifically, I want us as a defense to learn from and lick our wounds from our last match against them and make sure that we don't see these 2 guys popping up on the scoreboard because they were so impactful in our last game. Going down to the style and sort of the head coach. So Vanni Sartini is the coach for Vancouver. He's been their coach since 2018. He's been a coach in their system since 2018, a variety of roles, but been full-time head coach since last season. Uh, what we saw from Vancouver was a back three, bolstered with kind of a big midfield of either a 3-4-1-2 or a 3-5-2 type style. And the reason for that back three is that Vancouver really likes to leverage that width in behind and look at our fullbacks, our left and right fullbacks, and try to find space in behind them to serve in crosses. So they'll use that width a lot, you'll see, and whip in crosses to guys like Brian White. And Ryan Gauld will be in the end of some of those as well, but also they're looking for his foot to supply those crosses. So Vancouver, this season, when you look at away form, their last 5 away from home were a win, loss, win, draw. That recent draw coming against Montreal, and then that's a pretty good home away form when you look at though their points per match. 1.5 points per match is a pretty good clip for any MLS team when you look at away form. They have a positive goal differential as well at +2. When you look at their strengths as a team, this is a team that on the set piece side is extremely solid at defending set pieces. And once they get a lead, it's hard to break them down. So protecting leads is another big strength of theirs. When you look at them in terms of the MLS as an offense or as an attacking unit, we're looking at 1.33 XG per 90, which gets them in the bottom 10 of the MLS. But how a team like that is able to rise the standings and the leaderboard is by putting away some of those chances that they maybe shouldn't be. And that is by scoring at a clip of 1.62 goals for per 90, which is above average in the MLS. Away form specifically, they drop off a little bit on the XG side at 1.18, which is good for about 21st MLS, but they're scoring every 63 minutes. They're getting a goal in those away games for sure, if not multiple. 26% or about a fourth of those goals are coming from the last 10 minutes in the game. So this is a team that is lethal and lethal, especially late on in the game. They're not a team that's going to shoot the ball an overly, big amount of times, right? This is a team that's going to be effective on that little sample size. So let me just give you some examples. They generate the sixth fewest shots in the MLS, fourth fewest on target. But if you look at their goals per shot on target, so really the ability to be effective and clinical on your finishing, number 5 in the MLS. They also, for those shots, have the shortest average shot distance in the MLS at 16.1 yards. You can probably attribute that to high quality chance creation, but I'd say more so to, I think Justin's put some context in this before, is those crosses. You're not looking to cross the ball into the top of the 18 or even to between the penalty spot and the 18. You're looking to get those crosses in and around the 6-yard box and have a head meet that ball there. And so you're getting some really close opportunities. When you look at, I'd say I talked about this team already from an XG and goals perspective. If you take the goals minus the XG, they are a top 10 team. So they're very well outperforming their XG. If I look at set pieces for them, this is one of the interesting parts of their attack is they're top 10, both in XG and goals at number 8. So this team is a pretty good team from set pieces, attacking wise. Open play, not so much. Bottom 10 in both shots and expected goals. Passing wise, they're about average in the amount of passes they complete, but they're number 5 in medium and number 2 in long. So this is a team that looks to stretch the field. You look at the width, you look at verticality with this team. They're keeping their head up and looking for that little more borderline, more risky ball that isn't the safe, 5 to 10 yard pass. So they're not going to be very pretty on the eye in terms of build-up play, but if they can find or expose space in behind or expose some width and really stretch the field a little bit more, that's the pass they're looking for. And possession-wise, they're a bottom 10 team. They're not going to kill us with possession or have a ton of touches. If I look at our game against them here now at home, I bet they do end up conceding possession to us and letting us break them down like we've seen so many teams try to do. But they are number 5 in sequence time and passes per sequence. So they take their time when they are there in possession. They don't move overly quickly via that direct speed. Defensively, they're about average across the board, I would say. They allow, 1.38 expected goals per 90, and they actually had the same goals against per 90. So they're a team that's literally on par, expected and actual goals against. When you look at their away form, that's at 1.5 now expected goals against. So a little bit above average. They're conceding goals every 72 minutes on the road. Almost 50% of all goals they've conceded this year have come in a 30-minute span, and that 30-minute span being from the 31st to the 60th. So basically, either side of halftime is when they're conceding the bulk amount of their goals, which is a killer. If you're a coach, man, you do not want to see that stat. Another fourth of them come in the final 15 minutes. So if I'm City, you obviously want to start strong. You want to start strong in every game, but you definitely want to finish strong on the first half before the whistle, and you want to start strong again in the second half and come out firing because this team seems to concede a lot of goals during that kind of time lapse. In terms of shot against, they allow the fifth fewest, so a pretty steady Eddie type defense from them. It's nothing that's going to blow you away, but it's a pretty solid defense. And if I look at set pieces defensively for them, I already talked about it. They allow the fourth fewest shots in set pieces, and they're tied for the second least amount of goals allowed on set pieces, only 4 this season. They're a bottom 10 team in tackles, so think about their aggression and how high of a line they'll draw to really engage the city attack. Most of those come in the middle third, so you could kind of give this team a little bit of a mid-block type treatment where they're kind of, in and around the halfway line. They might really start to engage us or put some pressure on our defenders, our center backs, or our midfielders so they don't let them turn easily and continue to move into the final third. They're bottom 5 in block shots and passes, and there are no nonsense teams in the defensive third. They're a top 10 team in clearances. But the really important thing to me, we talked a little about the press and the mid block, but they have the highest passes per defensive action metric in the MLS at 16.4. So the PPDA, if those people have seen that on X or Twitter, it's a popular type of way to define how many passes a team likes to allow before some sort of defensive intervention, whether it be a foul, a tackle, an interception, what have you. We have the flip opposite of that, the very lowest passes per defensive action because we press a lot. We didn't as much in the last game. I think we engage in more of a middle block, but this is a team that isn't going to be all over you. They'll be all over you in certain spaces, but generally, this is not a big pressing team. Goalkeeping is okay. They're a bottom 10 team in saves and average save percentage. Takeoka is their goalkeeper. He's been better this season, but I think a lot of that is because he's under less threat than he was last season. So some of my keys to the game that I'm thinking about here as we head into this one is, and they're similar from last time, and I still think we didn't, really execute on some of those, but I think we need to balance our press and our possession. I think Hackworth is a coach that's wanting us to feel more confident playing with the ball at our feet on the ball, whereas Carnell was, extremely finite and detailed off the ball. And I think Hackworth's bringing a little more nuance to the on the ball movement. And we're the number 1 team, like I said, in passes per defensive action, build up disruption. Vancouver's last and second last in both of those. So again, the press for us, we need to use that to our advantage, force them to make mistakes, force them to make errors, but sometimes also sit off a little bit when it makes sense. They're going to have longer possessions. We heard about their sequence time, but they're not a big possession team overall. So sometimes it's okay to take your foot off the brakes a little, take your foot off the gas a little bit, in my opinion. And I think that's what Hackworth kind of let show in our last match, deploying more of a mid block or so against Colorado. I don't think it worked that well. Maybe Vancouver is a team where that could pay off a little bit more for us. Let them have those short passes too. They don't take a lot of them, but if they're going to knock it around in the back, take a little bit of a break. It's hard to go out there and press for 90 minutes in a game. So make sure that we're doing it strategically. Defending long balls, defending crosses. This was an issue in our game against them already. We need to do a much better job here. Your fullbacks have to be fully engaged on those balls over the top. Make sure they're tracking their runners, making sure that line is set. Our defensive line from the left back, center back, all the way over to the right back. Those guys need to be jointly unified and communicating at all times, making sure they are in line and there is no breaks there. We have to limit high quality chances. You've got to get bodies back. When Vancouver is going long on those balls and maybe they're in behind, we have to get numbers back. We saw some guys lagging in the last Colorado match, getting back a little bit late or not tracking their runners. There can be no excuses against Vancouver. This team will make you pay. We see how clinical they are with their chance and their finishing, you cannot allow them anything easy. And we gave them a couple easy ones last time. The final thing for me is composure. And this is more of an attacking angle. We get a lot of questions and a lot of thoughts on X around, man, we have so many shots, but the quality is so poor sometimes. And I'm sure Hack is working with the team on this. Is when we get the ball into that final third, especially in and around the 18-yard box, Vancouver's not going to give us anything. They're going to put a lot of bodies between us and the goal. And a lot of teams are going to do that even after Vancouver. We have to be methodical or learn to be methodical. We cannot force things. We cannot just bulldoze our way through some of these. And I think we're getting there. Some of our pass works, our pass networks, and our ability to knock the ball around and around that space, it's getting better. But for a team like Vancouver, again, they're not going to make it easy for us. They're conceding the second most non-penalty XG per shot. So they're allowing shots, but very low quality ones at that. And I feel like that makes me feel like we're going to fall into a trap here. And they're going to let us shoot from outside the 18. They might give us some open looks, but they might block those shots. And they're not letting any through balls or service into the box that will create a lot of danger. So for us, take your chances, of course, but maybe also keep your head up for that next pass or that more incisive pass. Or if you're going to pass, make sure you lead your runner. Make sure you put it into space so they can run onto it or one time it if they have to. They don't have to take a touch to recover from that. So it's those small little things that make a huge difference when you think about your attack. And I think those are things that we need to continue to learn more from. Now, getting into our favorite segment that we just love to do, and we're going to talk about Hoffman Brothers first. Hoffman Brothers is our presenting sponsor for 2024. And boy, these guys are working at it and seeing the trucks and vans, especially this last couple of weeks in and around my neighborhood. I'm sure you're seeing them in yours, but they're doing the Lord's work, keeping your homes cool during the summer heat, doing any sort of repair. I've been having some fridge issues. They also do that. They do appliance repairs as well. I'm telling you, people, they do everything under the roof. And you can reach out to them at your easiest disposal at 314-664-3011 or visit them online at hoffandbros.com and tell them Jake and Justin sent you. I think they would love to hear that. So without further ado, let's get into the Hoffman Bros starting 11. The Hoffman Bros predicted starting 11. I always love the discussion that we get to have here between myself and Justin, but I feel like a lot of this one kind of writes itself. You might have some more players available in this game, and you might have some guys coming back as well. So here's what I'm going to roll out with. I'm assuming Berkey's back spasms clear up, but obviously if they don't, and they want to take a chance, Lunt is going to be the guy between the pipes. I'm going to go Jay Reed, again, left back, becoming quickly one of our most consistent and highest performers per match. He's got to maintain his spot at left back. Where it gets interesting is center back. I don't think Parker or Wenzel really acquitted themselves that well the other night, but I do think that between them both, I'd prefer that partnership over Yarrow at this point right now. Yarrow is not very much a known commodity, especially as of recently recovering from his head injury. I don't think this is a game you just throw him back into the mixer for. So I'm personally going back to Wenzel and Parker, knowing that Nilsson's not ready yet, and I still am probably a team Wenzel over Yarrow. And hopefully that guy comes out hungry. Not having a great performance last match, needs to be better. Totland maintains his spot on the right. God rest his legs. Holy cow, this guy's going to play nearly every minute this season for us. Dirk and Leuven are going to be my center midfield, kind of defensive midfield, or number 8 pairing. I'm bringing Leuven back. I think they're going to want to start him now that he's had a good week off or so to rest up, unless he's got more complications from his adductor issue. And otherwise, I think you run with the same attacking front of Indy, Klein, Kajima, and Thor. Klein's still putting in performances. Kajima's still putting in tremendous work rate. Same with Indy. And you saw a lot of the quality Indy had in our last win. Thor, getting in the right spaces, finding the right windows and opportunities, you need him to seize them. it's good to be in the right spaces. I give Klaus props on that all the time, but you've got to be able to seize those moments and seize those opportunities when you get them and be clinical. I know he's not a nine, but we're playing him as one right now out of necessity. But I think if he's going to really give Hackworth something to think about when we get some more bodies back, he's got to be able to put the ball back in the net. So I'm going with Thor up top for my starting 11 to round us out. Prediction wise, I'm thinking 2-1 W here. This game was not that far off from the last match that we had against them away, from us being much more competitive. We let it slip away from us. At home, having now just gotten W last at home, I think we can try to capitalize on some of that momentum and really bring it against Vancouver. So I'm predicting a 2-1 W. So is Justin. The Grahammers and the lines where they're set right now, City is at plus 100, so about even money. And Vancouver is plus 220, the draw being at plus 265. The over under is sitting very juicy. The over 2.5 at minus 185. The under at plus 140. So where's the value at in this game? I think the over under is a little bit inflated. We haven't been a goal scoring machine this season, and I don't think neither is Vancouver away from home. So where I'm going is that I struggle to see a world or a game in this case where both teams fail to get on the scoreboard. So I'm going to go both teams to score as the first leg of a two-leg parlay. My other is that I also struggle to see a world where this is a big blowout game. I know we had a 4-3 match last time, but I think that just got away from us. I really, really do. And I think some of our goals we even score a little bit fluky. So I'm going to go under 4.5 as the other leg of this. So if you pair both teams to score and under 4.5 goals in the game, that comes out to even money at plus 100. Justin's going tried and true for his Grahammer at City over 1.5 at minus 125, which, man, for the amount of games we've scored over 1.5 goals, you'd think that number would be a little bit better or more fair for someone that's putting money on that. But Justin is. He's taking the bait. So that is what we have for you all today. Thank you all for tuning in so much for this. Bummer we couldn't do it live for you all today. But again, duty calls, and some weeks are tougher. But thank you so much for listening to the show. And for anyone that's been hearing my audio recently, we're working on that, I promise. So you probably don't hear it today. We're doing a little bit of a little bridge solution for now but we're trying to up the game here, trying to bring up the audio for you all. Being in your ears, got to have that audio down pat. So we're working on it. Thank you all for sharing the feedback on there and letting us know that it's not sounding great, but appreciate you for listening anyways. And hopefully you at least love the content. Looking forward to this match. City Park, it'll be our last home game for a while, if you take Leagues Cup especially out of it. So I hope City Park is bumping on Saturday evening. I have no doubt in my mind that it will be and that you all will be a part of that. So best of luck to City this week, coming home against Vancouver, rolling out the best 11 we possibly can in this crazy time and seizing the momentum in our last home match before a little bit of a break in the MLS season, at least for home matches before Leagues Cup. So thank you all again once for tuning in. We appreciate and love you. Make sure you throw us a like or a subscribe on YouTube if you're watching this there, or if you're on podcast forum, leave us a rating or review, and make sure you leave us 5 stars. We always love that. Thank you all, and we will talk to you on Sunday post-match in what should hopefully be a fun recap, but we shall see. And with that, we are all for City.